All right, and what's her name? Yeah, Mary Mahaffey. All right, is there any others that we need to add? Who's that? Doreen Smith. Okay. All right. Any other updates on anyone? Well, let's continue to remember those on the prayer request and continue to on remembering the shut-ins and all those, the law enforcement, veterans, EMTs, all those are out doing service for us each and every day. Remember our missionaries, Sandy and Joanne and Marty and Chandler Gillow. And always remember our military personnel. They're always needing our prayers, especially in the times that we're in now, because we never know what's going to take place. So, all right. Well, then we'll open up with a word of prayer. John, would you mind opening us a word of prayer?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to be in your house. Lord, I pray that you would be with each and every one of these prayer lists, each name. We know that you're in a great position and you know the needs far better than we do. I just pray that you would minister to each one who is in need of healing touch. Pray that you would be with family members of those who need healing. Pray that you would give them strength, give them comfort. Lord, I pray that you would be with Matt as he is over doing a revival tonight. Pray that you would speak through him. Pray that you would be with Brother Sandy and Miss Joanne as they make a presentation to us. Pray that you would watch over us all and care for us. Be with those who aren't here tonight. Might be out in hand. Bring them back safely. Pray the same in Christ.
Amen. Thank you, John. All right, now I'll turn it over to, I can't remember Sandy's name, but I'll turn it over to him anyway.
Thank you, Leroy. I appreciate it. Whatever your name is. John, you want to go ahead now? You're other way? So we got a good crowd here. You might as well go ahead and go there. Yep, he wait. We may not hear from John tonight. We'll see. Okay. First, I want you to know that this is the first time in quite a long time that we've had the opportunity to tell you about World Baptist Missions and what you're doing over in Honduras and both there and here in the States. We got a project coming up. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes. Going to Pennsylvania that you've heard about but may not know updates on. So we're going to have quite a bit we're going to cover tonight. Timothy, can you turn that screen on so I can see it? One down here. I was going to use that to monitor what was going on so I don't have to turn my back to you, but didn't realize it wasn't on. I'll go ahead and get started while he's getting that one fired up. Go to the next slide. Okay. The first thing on order tonight, we have some new folks that have just joined our ministry, and they are what we call journeyman missionaries. They know very little about our ministry at this point, and so I wanted to introduce you to them because you're going to be seeing a lot of them over the next, well, we hope from now on, but starting tonight. And this is Gene Mojica. Gene, stand up. I met Gene just a few weeks ago here in the parking lot by chance. And he has been looking for a way to serve the Lord. He's what I think of as an old man, as a new Christian. And he has a burning desire to serve the Lord. He and his wife, Amanda, have just become dear friends of ours and kind of part of our family in just a short time. They have two children that you may already know. Camilla was in the play that Timothy served as the Captain Von Trapp. And if you saw it, she was in that same play, and she was what?
Yeah, one of the children. What's her name?
She was one of the
Martha?
daughters of Timothy.
Okay.
She was Timothy's daughter.
Daughter, okay. One of the daughters. But anyway, that way you may know Camilla. And they have a son, his name is Cash. Cash is 7 years old and Camilla is 10 years old. So we're getting the whole family to join us. And I wanted you to meet Gene tonight. And if we have a few minutes toward the end here, I'm going to let him stand up and tell you a little about himself. But anyway, he's going to be going on the next trip to Honduras, which will be in November. I'll be leaving the 16th of November and be there till the 16th of December. And he's going to go down and meet everybody and see the various projects and find out what's going on there. But anyway, glad to have him on board and Amanda. And we're just looking forward to a long tenure of working together. You got somebody upstairs that can go to the next slide? Okay. Stand by. Okay, I think that it's important first for you to know some of the things that our ministry is involved in. And so this is a general list of the various categories of ministry that we are involved in now. It started off with, just one or two different things we were doing. And over the years, we've added various ministries, building churches, built a hospital, serving old people. In fact, we're building a senior assisted living center now that we're going to tell you about later. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, you see I've got listed down at the bottom in green. I'm out of the list. Oh, that was gone now. Out of the list, that's the one we're going to talk about next. So go to the next slide. This is the container in case you haven't seen it. It's parked at Southside Baptist Church in Griffin now. And all of the pastors that are participating in the planned trip to take items to Pennsylvania have keys, and as they have things ready, they're going to the container, placing things in the container and packing them and so forth. So we're slowly getting it packed and loaded and ready to go. As soon as it's loaded, then I hope that I'll be the one driving it, trying to work on that now to get us a dual axle tractor. The company that we've been working with for tractors has gone to only single axle tractors because they carry light things. And so we're working on that, but we'll be leaving to go to Pennsylvania with items for, probably 20 different migrant camps in that area, and also a church that we're helping to do some project work. And so all those things will be going up in the container. Next. This is the way the container looks. Got the steps and a little platform at the back door so we can easily open both doors and load it. And like I said, if you want to go by and see it, if you have something to go in it, it's behind the Southside Baptist Church in Griffin. Next. Okay, seminary. The seminary is a program that you've been sponsoring, I think, for 7 years now. Our ministry, World Baptist Mission, gets a check each month from the church, and it's based on, the amount is based on a percentage of the gross intake of the church, is my understanding. And so that money, every penny of it, goes toward the seminary. And I hope you picked up one of these on your way in, and if you didn't, you can get one now or get one on the way out, either way. But this tells about the seminary, gives you a little more details, has some pictures and so forth. But this is the prime ministry that this church is sponsoring and has been for, I think, 7 years. Is that right? Close to it. Okay. Next few pictures, other pictures of the seminary. Go ahead, Timothy. This is a typical class. We are having classes in 2 different locations now, one in Oropoli, which is in the south part of Honduras, and one in Guayamaca, which is in the central part of Honduras. Okay, next. This is one of the graduating classes, and this class is in Guayamaca, I believe. Next. Okay, that's a graduating class in Oropoli. Next. That's a graduating class waving. Next. Okay, this is an interesting photo because we always look into the future, and we got a visit back probably 3-4 years ago from a group in North Honduras, from the town of Sula, not San Pedro Sula, but this is about an hour and a half, 2 hours west of San Pedro Sula. And this group has a beautiful, beautiful campground that used to be a hospital, and later it was, I think, church, I'm not sure. But anyway, now they use the facility. It's got living quarters, kitchen, dormitory, big meeting room, individual rooms for guests to live in while they're there. Real nice. And they want us to provide instructors for them to do the same studying that we're providing in Guayamaca and Oropoli. And so right now we're working on trying to come up with funding to add this location in Sula to the 2 locations we already have. And they have been sending anywhere from 3 to 7, I think, one time, of their students to our classes in Guayamaca. It's 7 or 8 hours drive for them, but they've been sending folks there to take classes. But they have at least 50 students that are potential students, most of them pastors, that would like to study. And so as soon as we can afford it, and as soon as we can make the arrangements, we want to provide instructors and study material and so forth for that area. Next. Okay, one thing that you probably heard us talk about on and off is our feeding program. Feeding program is something we started years ago because we just saw such great needs. People in Honduras are hungry. So many of them don't have jobs. So many of them are older or have some infirmity and are not able to work and don't have family to take care of them in a lot of cases. And so they really scrape to get by and barely do, practically starving to death sometimes. And you're going to see some pictures of that in just a minute. But this is a program we started. It's working good. It's always short. For instance, right now we've only got, I think it's 6 people on the feeding program. We could put 60 easy. The most we've had, I think, at any one time was 12. And then some of the funding started fading out. And so this is an area that we're always in the red on. When I talked to Joanne about, she does the books for the ministry, and when I talked to her and asked her, well, how do we stand with the feeding program? She says, oh, we're way behind. But we've had some nice donations recently that helped us to catch up a little bit. But for the most part, we're using general fund, in other words, money that's donated and not designated. We've been using those funds to fund the feeding program. But go ahead to the next slide. This is a typical pack of food that each recipient on the food program gets once a month. Our representative in Honduras, Mino Rodriguez, goes to the home of each one of the recipients, takes a pack of this food. He has a pantry at his house where he keeps all these food items. And perishables, of course, he goes to buy them right away. before he leaves to go distribute them. But anyway, he puts a food packet together and then takes it out, ministers to the people, find out if they need to go to the doctor. If so, we can do one of two ways. We can either take them to Dr. Estrada, or we can go get Dr. Estrada and take him to the patient if necessary. And we provide them sometimes with medication, doctor visits, transportation, even sometimes transportation to Tegucigalpa to the indigent hospital there. So that is a very important program, and to see people come to the point of near starvation is difficult to see. And we just felt like for years that it's something we got to take care of, whether we got the money to do it with or not. Next slide. This is Paulina. She's one of the food recipients. And the next slide, I think, that's Paulina's leg. When we first found her, her leg was in worse condition than that. And we've tried our best to get people to take care of it, get her to take care of it. She lives in a terrible condition, flies everywhere, and no doors, no screen on the house. So bugs and flies and so forth, and dirt get in that wound. And so we have really been working for a long time to try to get that wound healed. And it's a little better than that now, but not much better. We got a group in Pella, Iowa that come once a year, and they usually have at least 2 nurses, and they clean it up, take care of it for the week that they're there. And they have paid, themselves paid for a local nurse to come once a week and take care of it, but it just needs more care than they and we've been able to afford. Okay, next. This is, I always forget one of them's name. This is Armando. Armando is on the right, and Fermin is on the left. Their last name is Salgado, and they are brothers. And that shack that you see in the background is where they live. It's just a one-room shack. It's about maybe 10 feet square, and one of them has looks like an old army cot in there, and the other one just got a bunch of stuff stacked up, and he sleeps on it. And that's about all that's in the house. They have maybe 2 or 3 shirts or something, and maybe some underwear, and probably the only shoes they got on. But just very poor. They don't have any family. Nobody to take care of them. And that building and property where the corn's growing, where they're standing there, that belongs to somebody else, and he wants them to leave. And so he wants to take that property and push the shack down and sell it, and has made it very clear, and that's been quite a while back. And fortunately, they've been able to continue living there. Don't have anybody to take care of them, and we visit them, take them food, and they prepare it pretty much themselves, and that's what they have to live on. Next. This is my buddy. This is Basilio Raudales. Basilio is, I think he's 88 or 89 years old now. He lives, next slide. You see that little building way over there on the other side of the field? That's where he lives. And to my knowledge, he hasn't been out of that building in 4 years at least. He can't stand. He broke his hip, and nobody to fix it. And so he can drag himself around. And actually, when we had some nurses there earlier this year, I believe it was, they got him to stand up. He can barely support his own weight, but that's probably the first time he stood up in years. And but he just lives on a pallet on the floor. That's where he sleeps, and he drags himself around in that room, and he's on our food program. So Mino or one of our pastors named Juan Ramon go to visit him once a month, take him groceries. Well, they don't actually take him groceries. They take it to a Mennonite lady who owns that farm and lives across on the other side of the field. So she takes the food products, prepares them, and then takes them over there and serves them to him once a day. And then her brother comes maybe once a week and carries out his waste and cleans up after him and go again for another week. But anyway, he's buried. He cannot hear thunder, lightning. If a bomb went off in there, he might not even blink his eyes. But if you holler at him, he can hear you. I mean, really holler now. And he talks continuously. Once you ask him a question or whatever, he just takes it from there and goes. But he got good sense. He make what he says make sense, and he can communicate. But he does like to talk. He doesn't have anybody to talk to, so when he has somebody, he goes for it. Next, this is my daughter, our daughter, and we were down there in December, and for a week, and took her and her son and his girlfriend, Joanne, and myself. Who else? That was it. And no, Logan. Well, okay, that's the son. Okay, and we were down there for a week, and she had been asking me, 'cause I tell her about him all the time, and so she wanted to see where he lived. He lives in another town that's out in the mountains from Guaymaca. So we drove out there, and when she walked in and saw him, she immediately just went into a total different gear. Okay, push the button. I could not be more proud of our daughter. We have had pastors down there that we took to see him, and they did not even want to go in the room with him because they thought he was too filthy to be that close around. And she went up to him, and when we got there, he had already drug himself over to the door, and that's as far as he can get by himself. And so she met him there. And I think she started with his face and washed it and worked all the way down, hands, arms, legs, feet. I was so proud of it. Next. This is a group that we've been living on for years. They are in what we call a senior center. It's actually owned by the city, and they provide the building, which is an old house, and the electricity, and we dug them a well back several years ago, so they got good, clean, fresh, plenty of water. And but once in maybe 3 times a year, 4 times a year, we're able to get enough money together to buy them a meal, buy the ingredients for a meal. And so we have some Mennonite friends that cook the meal for us, and then we go over there and serve the meal. And typically we'll have a team there. And in this case, it was a team from Pella, Iowa. And so they minister to them and love on them and just have a real good time of fellowship and always sing songs and have a little preaching service. And we just enjoy living on them. Just a bunch of old folks, poor folks. They all got practically nothing, but they come running when we have these feedings. Next. I can't read that.
Volunteer teams.
Okay, volunteer team. Let's go for that. Next. In February, we had a team there that we'd not had these guys before, but these are all construction workers. And so we had talked to them ahead of time and told them what we needed them to do was to lay block. And they would be building our new senior assisted living center that's under construction now. And so we told them that the one tool that they needed to bring would be to bring a trowel. And so when they got there, one of the first things I asked them, I said, "Did y'all bring your trowel?" "Oh, yeah, we did." "Well, later they got the trowels out and showed them to me. They were about this big. And, you know, what I was expecting was a trowel that long and a good gripping handle on it. But anyway, I found out right quick that they're carpenters and not masons. But anyway, let's go to the next picture. This is the group that they worked with. I think some of them in the picture too, yeah. But they worked with Hondurans as well as themselves. The Hondurans, for the most part, mixed the mortar, and these guys laid the block. And they did a super excellent job. Really did a nice job. We'll see some more pictures of it in just a minute. Next. This is kind of jumping cogs here. This was a medical that we did. We've done hundreds and hundreds, I reckon, of medicals. This one's at a school, and a school that we've done medicals at. It's about maybe 5 miles from Guayamaca out in the mountains, and real good folks. And we do medicals there as often as we can get a team to go. The medicals usually consist of examination. We always have a doctor with us, or 2 doctors. I think we had 2 on this trip, and Dr. Lestrada and Dr. Daining, I believe. And but anyway, we do examinations. If you find something that somebody needs that's beyond what our doctor's able to do with the medication we have, then we make arrangements to take them to take us to Galpa or to do something else to help them with whatever their need is, even up to and including surgery. So we've done lots of things for lots of people all through the years, all in the name of Christ, as we tell them about the Lord, give them literature. And I want to show you this. A couple of years ago, I've been looking for at least 30 years for a good track that would tell about salvation, just down to earth, what it takes to be saved. And I found it. And it came from Charlie Bing. Charlie Bing has got a fantastic ministry. He's in Texas, I believe. And so I asked Charlie if he had it in Spanish. Couldn't find out it's never been produced in Spanish. So he gave me permission to reproduce it in Spanish. So this one is in Spanish. And we got 10,000 of these in Honduras. I got 1,000 of those up here just the other day. And since this guy here, Gene, speaks Spanish and ministers to Spanish-speaking people, he's got some and can pass out this information that you can read in English in Spanish. So get one of these and take it home with you. Read it, use it. If you'll hand them out, I'll come up with them. Just let me know how many you need. When you need them, I'm going to always have them available in English and Spanish. So whether you can minister to someone in the States or someone that's here illegally or otherwise, then we can take care of it. Okay, let's see, next one. Okay, we're back to Guayamaca. This is a team that came, what month did they come? You remember? That was last year. Anyway, I think it was in May of last year, I'm not sure. But anyway, this team came, another team from Iowa. And Dennis, the guy on the far right there, Dennis works with Vermeer. Have you heard of Vermeer Corporation? They make all kind of stuff, everything from bulldozers to hay balers to ditch trenching machines, everything in the world. And he's their engineer troubleshooter. He's over the department that takes care of people that have problems with a machine. Maybe it's a new developed machine and they still got a few bugs in it. He's the one that goes and helps get the bugs out of it, read the signs, whatever it needs to be done to get it where it won't be giving trouble again. But anyway, he's a very dear friend of ours, had been for years. And he brought this group of college students down, and they stayed with us for a week, and their project was to build benches for 2 churches. So that's one of their products that they built, that bench. And at the end of the week, they saw the pastors come and get the benches and take them back to their 2 churches. Okay, next. Special care, is that what this is? Okay, medical we've been doing for years, even before, I think maybe that was one of the first things we did. But we started off with light medical, just doing what we could, giving away. We had a nurse, and we had a supply of medicine, and she would see patients and determine what their need was, give them medicine. And from that it grew into, we built a hospital, and then we built a surgery center, and we had a surgery complex, 4 surgery suites that was good or better than most surgery suites in the States. And so medical has always been part of what we do. We still do it. We still take medical teams out into the mountains and serve in meet in schools, examine patients. If we find somebody that needs some kind of special care, even to bringing them to the States. We probably brought close to, I would say, at least 50, 70 people to the States for very special care, brain surgery, all kind of internal surgery, bone repair, all kind of stuff. But anyway, all of that is part of what we do in the medical ministry. Next. This is Joanne with a team, and that's a nurse, and she's examining this little boy and helping him. Next. That's her again. The girl there with the pink shirt on to the left and the brown shorts, her name is Rebecca, and just to give you a heads up on what I'm going to be showing you in a few minutes, Rebecca has terminal cancer. It develops when as a child, and she had surgery and had part of her face removed, I think. And it went away for years, and finally, about 3 or 4 years ago, it came back with a vengeance. And so it's developing and going all the way down her face into her jaw and mouth, and it's terminal. The hospital and doctors and Tegucigalpa turned away and said, go home and die. And that's the way they do it there. There's no help for them or anything. So anyway, I'm going to be showing you her a little bit later. Next. That's her in another picture. And you see how thin she is. And she has a real hard time eating. She's in constant 24/7 pain. Next. That's morphine. We help her to get morphine. And in this case, she had just gotten a supply and to add to what she already had. But she uses about 1 vial every day, day and a half. And the interesting thing is she has made it very well widely known that she wants to finish high school. She was short 2 years, and she wanted to finish high school before she dies. Well, last year we helped her go to school, paid all the school expenses and so forth, and transportation back and forth to another town. She has to go from Guaymaca to Talanga to go to school every day. But she gets up, she gets all pumped up with a pain medication, goes out front, catches a bus, goes to Talanga, catches a taxi to the school, goes to school, makes the same reverse trip back home, and does that 5 days a week. And so it's essential that she keep morphine on hand to take care of the pain. Sometimes she gives out of injectable morphine, and we can get tablets of morphine, and she crushes them up and puts them in Enfamil or whatever, some kind of drink that she makes up, a powdered drink, and takes it that way by mouth. But her name is Rebecca, and we also helping her dad, who has a serious heart problem that will never be fixed. It will end up killing him probably. It's a valve problem. And we help her sister's little boy to go to school. Okay, next one. Okay, Senior Assisted Living Center it's sort of like the hospital was years ago. This is our major project. We felt that there's so many senior citizens in Honduras that don't have any family. They don't have anybody to take care of them. They just sort of, like Basilio we saw a while ago, except for the for the generosity of the Mennonite lady that lived across the field. He wouldn't even have a tool shed to live in. And so we decided that it's time to do something about it. So what we're doing, and the purpose is so we can minister to these old folks before they go one way or the other. And we want to be sure, if there's any way possible, they go to spend eternity in heaven because they know Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior. And so what we're going to show you here now is the Senior Assisted Living Center that we are just starting to build. I estimate that it's going to be about a $500,000 project. And so we got a long way to go, but we're getting started. So here's what's going on next. All right, this is an aerial view from a drone of the site. The highway there, can you stop it? Or go back? Now, stop it right there and don't hit it again until I tell you. Okay, the highway there that you see across the bottom where that truck was coming across, the truck was headed toward Guatemala, which is another 2 miles or so down the road. Going the other way where the truck came from is to the capital city of Tegucigalpa. It's about an hour and 15 minutes away. Also down that same direction is Talanga, and that's where Rebecca goes to school. It's about 30 minutes or so away. So that'll give you a perspective. Now, if you go straight up on the picture, you see those few buildings around the highway. The one on the far right, where it looks like a black across the back of it, that's what we call a vivero. It's a garden center where they sell plants and fertilizer and flowers and all kinds of stuff like that. Well, if you go just to the right of it, you see a dirt road that goes back to that corner on the upper right-hand side of the picture. Okay, go ahead. This is a video that we got taken with a drone, and it's going to come around there and zoom in on our property where we're building the Senior Assisted Living Center. By the way, all that property to the left is going to be developed, and there'll be a housing project. There'll probably be 150 houses over there. And the family that owns that property gave us this property, and they are real good friends of ours, Mennonites, and Andrew Schmucker and his wife owned the property as an investment. And when I saw the property, we were looking at different pieces of property. When I saw that piece of property, I said, this is it. And I told Andy, I said, this is what I want. And he said, well, we'll have to talk to my wife about that because she owns it. So we did, and the next day, she wrote us a note, and that's our deed to the property. Okay. I don't know how to show you this. Go to the next slide. Okay, let's do this. Down at the very bottom right-hand corner, you see a red mark with a number 1 and an arrow pointing that way to the left. All right, it's pointing toward a small building. That's the first building that we built, and it's the distribution building, also a little storage and maintenance building, but it's a distribution building for the electrical system, which comes in overhead to that building, and then we got a generator. You'll see it in a minute, but we got a generator there for auxiliary power if the power goes out, which it often does. And then we'll distribute the electrical underground to all the other buildings on the property. And so the electrical and the water will both be distributed underground. All right, then number 2 up there at the very top of the page, we'll talk about in just a minute. Okay, next slide. That's the first building. That's the distribution building. And then you see the generator over there to the right. All right, go back one slide if you would, Clint or Timothy. Okay, next to that number 2 up there is another housing building. That's the first housing building. The second one that will be built is over to the right and down, it'll be the first one down on the right. We'll build 3 up and down on the right side and 2 across the top. So we'll be able to take care of 40 people. Be 2 people in each housing unit. And, it'll be 8 in each housing unit because there's 4 rooms and 2 people to a room. So there's 8 people to each unit and 5 units, 40 people. And then we're going to, across the bottom there, you see the 2 little buildings kind of like side by side. That's one building, and that's a dormitory for you to go down and live in when you go down there to help us build or minister or whatever you do, whatever you choose to do while you're there on your trip, that's where you're going to be living. So that's a dormitory for visitors. The building out there in the middle that's cattywampus is the dining hall for the whole facility. And then the cattywampus building in the far back corner is the bathhouse for the patients and also the laundry for the patients. And then over up to the very top in the left-hand corner, with that building that's up and down, that will be for the manager's family and for him to live. Okay, next. That one we already saw, that's the distribution building. Next. Next. Okay, that's a floor plan of one housing unit. There'll be 5 of them. That's 4 bedrooms with 2 cots or 2 beds in each room. It'll have a toilet and a lavatory, but no bathing facilities because that's going to be in that angle building in the corner. Next. That's the way the front of one housing unit will look. And again, there'll be 5 of them. Next. This is pouring the floor for the first one. And we're to the point now where we're ready to put the roof on, but I wanted you to see how everything's done. That mixer, see that mix up there, the green machine in the upper part of the picture? 2 old men from Americus, Georgia, went down there on a mission trip probably 20 years ago. And they realized we needed a mixer to mix concrete with because we were doing it all by hand. And we were building a hospital at the time. So they came back to the States and found that old mixer in an abandoned schoolhouse outside of Americus. And it's been mixing concrete ever since. It built the entire hospital. It's building a senior assisted living center. It's built houses, sidewalks, streets, built a daycare center. I mean, it's been a good machine. Next. That's some more work on the same building. And remember the teams, those 4 guys that don't know how to lay block, because they're carpenters, they built that much at that point. Next. That's the way it looks today. And we've just about got the money to put the roof on it. We're definitely going to put the roof on when Gene and I go back down there in November. Next. Church planning, okay. Can't read it from here. Okay, next. We have planted 8 churches, I think it is, over the years, and this is just one of them. That one is in a beautiful location, probably at around 5,000 foot elevation. It's got a valley just to the backside of it that goes like that. And but it's a beautiful place. The people up there just so loving. They live and exist on planting and growing coffee, and so coffee is all around it. All right, next. That church is our one disgrace. That church is in a location that's so far away that during the rainy season, which is 6 months out of the year, you can't even get to the town with a vehicle. And if you're in town with a vehicle, you can't get it out because when the river comes up, you can't ford the river. So during dry season, we can ford the river, drive our vehicle into town. Otherwise, I wish I'd put a picture of the bridge, but otherwise you have to park just outside town on the other side of the river. Walk down parallel to the river a little ways, get up on a bridge, a swinging bridge, and walk I don't think it'd be exaggerating to say it's as long as from here to the back of the parking lot. Long bridge. And but that's the way you go across the bridge, turn right, and walk into town. Name of the town is San Jose de Guayape. It's the Guayape River, and the little town is called San Jose. But we need a preacher there. We had a couple that went from San Marcos, another church that we started, one of the first churches we started, and he and his wife stayed there 2 years, but it's so remote. I mean, there's nothing there. There's not even a store there. There's no electricity there. There's no running water there. There wasn't anything to build that church out of. It's built out of mud brick made with mud from the ground there on the river. Beautiful church. It's just that pretty on the inside, but we don't have a pastor there. So what we're going to end up having to do is getting one of our pastors that has been trained at our seminary and help him with expenses to go there and live, hopefully with his wife. But anyway, we need somebody to go there and preach the gospel, tell people about the Lord. We had it for 2 years and then hadn't been able to get a pastor to go there since. They just can't afford it. Next. This is just another church up in the mountains. Next. I just had to throw that one in there in case you have, Mike, what is it you? Yeah, you. You got a truck that won't run. That guy never has mechanical trouble with his car. I thought you might appreciate that. He and I have had our trucks in the shop here recently, and, but anyway, that's the way a lot of folks travel in Honduras. He's got a load of wood. Okay, next. I hope you can you read that? We'll take just a minute and read it. And Joanne and I are very sincere about that. Very sincere. Thank y'all for putting up with us all these years. Thank you for loving on us when you want to really step out. And we appreciate you so much. We have a lot of other churches, a lot of individuals from Yorba Linda, California, to up in Ohio and down into Florida, supporting the ministry. But you know, it takes every bit to make it work. And we want so much for the ministry to grow. Something that's very unusual about our ministry is one is small. Two, every penny that we receive that's designated to build a senior assisted living center, to go to the food program, every penny goes to that project. Joanne and I, through the years, have had people that help us, and that's designated to help us. So we don't have to take anything out of donated money to go to a project. So if you see something tonight that you like, that you feel led to participate in, to be supportive of, then every penny that you give will go to that project. I promise you. If you don't believe it, ask Joanne. She does the bookkeeping. But that's the way we do things. I want you to know that Gene and Amanda are getting ready to come on board, we hope, if the Lord continues to lead in that direction. He's got a prayer card up here that just came off the press this past week, telling a little bit about him, and he will begin right away to raise support for himself and for their family, because he's going to have to leave his roofing business. He owns a roofing company, and he's used to making good money, and but he's been called to serve the Lord full time, and he'll tell you that he's not going to go back on that. So if you feel led to help him a little bit along the way, I would suggest something that you can commit to on a monthly basis. That works best. and just, do it as long as you can, maybe forever, maybe 6 months, whatever. But that's what he needs right now is your prayers and some financial support so he can make that step from secular life to ministry life. So I hope you'll take a minute to meet him. He was born in Mexico, raised a little bit in Mexico, been here for 15 years?
No, I've been here since I was 10 years old.
He's
38 now,
38.
so 28 years.
Okay, so for 28 years he's been here. He's a citizen of the United States, carries a U.S. passport. And of course, Amanda she's a North American citizen. She's one of us. And he's an import. But the neat thing about it is when he goes with me in November when I go down, when he gets off the plane, before he gets to the plane, he'll be talking in English. When he gets off down there, he can do just as good in Spanish. I've been working on that for 35 years, and I ain't even nowhere close. But we're looking forward to that. They're fine folks, and we just appreciate them joining us. Does anybody have any questions? Anything we hadn't covered? You want me to start over and do it again? Started on March the 13th of 88. So I made my first trip down there, and I had been putting it off for several years. A guy by the name of Gary Simmons, that you know, Gary asked me 3 years in a row to go, and I gave him a check. And the next year when he came and asked me to go, I just couldn't give him a check. I said, yep, you didn't ask me to give you a check, you asked me to go. And so I went, and I didn't want to go. I didn't go back in those days. I didn't go anywhere. If I couldn't be back home by night, I didn't go. I was always homesick. Mom and Daddy had to come get me from RA camp, Camp Pinnacle and Camp Glen, and I was always homesick. That drove my life. But I figured I was a grown man, married. There's no reason I can't go to Honduras and stay a week. Anybody can stand that. And I went down there with the team, and when I walked down off the airplane and put my foot on the concrete in San Pedro Sula, Honduras, a feeling came over me that I promise you I will never turn loose. And I've never been homesick since, not nary a little bit. I go anywhere, stay as long, and that's what God did to me. And I'm not going to turn that loose for anything, anybody. I think I remember that. Schroeder? I don't know a Schroeder. I know a lot plenty of sports and troopers, and in Honduras, we got Schmuckers. This is a big group of Schmuckers down there. Andy Schmucker and his family were one that gave us that property. But we got lots of friends there, and of course I was raised in Montezuma and lived right in the middle of the Mennonite community. So something you might be interested in, the Mennonites believe strongly that salvation is by works. And they believe that if you have a sinful thought or a sinful deed and you don't confess to God and ask his forgiveness, that before you die, you will go to the bad place. They believe that. But you know something? It's taken years and years and years. But in Honduras, we're cracking that. And we had a crusade, I reckon it's 3-4 years ago now. And one of the Mennonite guys, he was an usher at Baluarte Mennonite Church there in Guaymaca. He stood up in front of 4,000 people and told him that salvation is not by works, it's by faith in Jesus Christ. And he went on, and he was loud, and he told it like it was. And we've got at least 2 others that have crossed the bridge and are now believers in salvation through faith in Christ. And the pastor, Gilberto Schmucker, I've been working on Gilbert, and he's reading and studying and believing. And the only thing that's holding him back right now is the fact he's got so many people above him in the Mennonite churches where he comes from that come down there and check on him every now and then to make sure he's still doing things right. But I believe that's the only thing that's keeping him from getting up there and just, he doesn't talk about works anymore. He doesn't talk about, he avoids that subject. But he hadn't gotten quite strong enough yet to say that salvation is only by faith in Christ. But we're working on it. Any other questions? That was a long answer, wasn't it? It's after 7, it's cooperates. Thank y'all. God bless you. Hope to get to do this again in 10 more years.
Thank you for joining
John,
Zebulon's
one more
dynamic
thing.
downtown fellowship at Zebulon First Baptist Church. We're located on the square in Zebulon, Georgia, next to City Pharmacy. If you have not visited with us in person, we invite you to do so. Our Sunday morning Bible study starts at 9:45 a.m. and our Sunday morning worship service starts at 11 o'clock a.m. We would be honored to have you visit our church. We have a safe and growing children's ministry with volunteers who love children and love having fun. Our youth ministry, the Epic Student Ministry, is a growing and energetic group of students who want to deepen their faith in Christ. Our students serve our community as well as other communities in many ways. If you would like someone to pray with you, or if you have questions about our church, we would be honored to talk to you. Our phone number is 770-567-8498. Our email address is firstzeb@bellsouth.net. Or you can simply send us a private message right here on Facebook. Please be sure to join us next week at 11 a.m. right here for our live stream.